I didn't believe in cursed trails. At least, not before Pine Hollow. Most local legends are the same. Someone disappears. Someone hears strange noises in the woods. People exaggerate stories until they become folklore. That's what I thought when my friend Ethan handed me the flyer. "Read it," he said. I laughed. It looked like a photocopied warning sheet someone had pinned to a community board. At the top were the words, "Pine Hollow Trail Visitor Guidelines." Underneath was a list of rules. Rule 1, stay on the marked trail at all times. Rule 2, do not hike after sunset. Rule 3, if you see someone standing between the trees, do not approach them. Rule 4, if you hear your name being called, keep walking. Rule 5, if you hear whistling, leave the path immediately and return to the trailhead. Rule 6, never follow the sound of the whistle. Rule 7, if the whistling stops suddenly, run. I laughed halfway through reading it. Seriously? Ethan wasn't smiling. I know 3 people who won't go near Pine Hollow anymore. Because of a whistle. No. His expression darkened. Because of what comes after it. That got my attention. What does that mean? They won't talk about it. I rolled my eyes. Of course they wouldn't. That's how every local legend works. Mysterious enough to keep spreading. Impossible enough to never prove. A week later I decided to hike Pine Hollow myself. Mostly because I was bored. Partly because I wanted to prove the stories were nonsense. The trail sat nearly 30 miles outside town. Dense forest surrounded it from every direction. Tall pine trees blocked most of the sunlight. Even arriving at noon felt strangely gloomy. The parking lot was almost empty. Only 2 vehicles sat near the trail entrance. An old pickup truck. And a park maintenance vehicle. A wooden information board stood beside the trailhead. The same rules were nailed to it. Someone had added another handwritten note underneath. If you hear whistling, do not wait to confirm it. Leave immediately. I smirked. People were really committed to the bit. The trail itself looked normal. A narrow dirt path winding through thick forest. Birds chirped overhead. Wind rustled through branches. Nothing unusual. I started hiking. For the first hour everything felt completely ordinary. The trail curved through hills and pine groves. Occasionally I passed old trail markers nailed to trees. Every so often I noticed something strange. Small piles of stones beside the path. Dozens of them. Always arranged the same way. 5 stones stacked vertically. Like markers. The deeper I walked, the more of them appeared. Eventually I stopped beside one. The stones looked freshly placed. Not weathered. Not old. Recent. Someone maintained them. I took a photo and continued. Around 2 hours into the hike I encountered the first person. An elderly man sitting on a fallen log. He wore a faded green jacket and carried a walking stick. He looked up as I approached. His eyes widened. "You alone?" "Yeah." His expression immediately changed. Not concern. Fear. Genuine fear. "You need to turn around." I laughed. Because of the whistle. He didn't smile. "Have you heard it yet?" "No." "Then leave before you do." Something about his tone unsettled me. Not dramatic. Not theatrical. Just sincere. What exactly happens? The old man looked toward the trees. For several seconds he said nothing. Then, "It notices you." A chill crawled up my spine. "What notices you?" His grip tightened around the walking stick. "The thing that whistles." I waited for him to elaborate. He didn't. Instead he stood up. Slowly. Like someone much older than he appeared. Then he started walking back toward the trailhead. Without another word, I watched him disappear around a bend. The forest suddenly felt quieter. Not silent. Just different. I checked my phone. No signal. Not surprising. I kept walking. The trail narrowed. Trees grew closer together. Shadows stretched across the ground despite the afternoon sun. The air felt colder. Around 3 o'clock I noticed something odd. The forest had gone completely quiet. No birds. No insects. Nothing. The silence felt unnatural. Like every living thing had left. Then I heard it. A whistle. Soft. Distant. 3 notes. Clear and deliberate. I froze. The sound came from somewhere deeper in the woods. Not on the trail. Among the trees. For a moment I simply stood there. Listening. Nothing followed. Just silence. I almost laughed. Probably another hiker. Or a hunter. Then the whistle came again. Closer this time. 3 identical notes. Slow. Controlled. My smile faded. Something about it felt wrong. Not human. Too perfect. Too consistent. I remembered Rule 5. If you hear whistling, leave the path immediately. I looked toward the forest. The sound had definitely come from there. Somewhere beyond the trees. A third whistle echoed through the woods. Even closer. My stomach tightened. For the first time all day, I considered turning around. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The whistle wasn't moving through the forest. It was getting closer. Much faster than anything walking should. And whatever was making it was coming straight toward the trail. The whistle came again. 3 notes. Closer than before. Close enough that I could hear the air moving through whatever was making it. My stomach tightened. The sound wasn't coming from deep in the forest anymore. It was near the trail. Very near. For the first time since arriving at Pine Hollow, I considered turning around. The old man's warning replayed in my head. Leave before you hear it. Unfortunately, that option was gone. I had already heard it. Twice. Now 3 times. The woods remained unnaturally silent. No birds. No insects. Nothing. Just the distant whisper of wind moving through pine needles. And the whistle. I stood frozen for several seconds, trying to decide whether I was being ridiculous. Maybe it was another hiker. Maybe someone was messing with people. Then I noticed movement. About 50 feet off the trail. Between 2 trees. A person. Standing completely still. My pulse immediately accelerated. Rule 3. If you see someone standing between the trees, do not approach them. The figure didn't move. Didn't wave. Didn't call out. It simply stood there. Watching. I squinted, trying to make out details. The distance wasn't far. But somehow the person's features seemed difficult to focus on. Like my eyes couldn't settle on them. The figure appeared tall. Thin. Wearing dark clothing. Its arms hung at its sides. Motionless. A cold feeling crept into my chest. I raised a hand. The figure didn't respond. Not even slightly. Then the whistle sounded again. This time from directly behind me. 3 notes. Loud. Much louder. I spun around. Nothing. The trail stretched empty in both directions. No hikers. No animals. No one. My breathing became uneven. The whistle had been close. Too close. As if someone had stood directly behind my shoulder. I turned back toward the trees. The figure was gone. My stomach dropped. The space between the trees stood empty. I stared. Certain it had been there. Certain. Then another whistle echoed through the woods. To my left. 3 notes. The exact same pattern. I started walking. Fast. Back toward the trailhead. I didn't care how ridiculous it felt anymore. Something about the forest had changed. The deeper instinctive part of my brain recognized danger. Even if the logical part couldn't explain why. The trail curved around a hill. The woods thickened. Every shadow suddenly looked wrong. Every tree seemed closer than before. I kept moving. The whistle followed. Never directly behind me. Never directly ahead. Always somewhere among the trees. Tracking me. Matching my pace. 3 notes. Pause. 3 notes. Pause. 3 notes. My chest tightened. The sound felt deliberate. Like communication. Like something letting me know exactly where it was. And exactly where I was. Then I noticed another strange thing. The stone markers. The stacks of 5 stones. There were more now. Many more. Lining both sides of the trail. Dozens of them. I didn't remember seeing this many before. Some looked freshly placed. As though someone had built them recently. Today. The whistle came again. Closer. My heart pounded. I increased my pace. A few minutes later I reached a section of trail bordered by dense pines. The canopy overhead blocked most of the sunlight. The area looked almost dark despite the afternoon hour. Then I heard a voice. Help! I froze. The sound came from the trees. To my right. A man's voice. Weak. Desperate. Please? Every hair on my arm stood up. Rule 4. If you hear your name being called, keep walking. The rules hadn't mentioned cries for help. I stared into the woods. At first I saw nothing. Then movement. Someone stepped partially into view. A man. Middle-aged. Dirty clothes. Blood on one side of his face. His expression looked terrified. Thank God. He stumbled forward. I've been lost for hours. Relief flooded through me. Finally. An actual person. A normal explanation. You okay? The man's eyes widened. Don't come over here. What? His breathing became rapid. Panic filled his face. Stay on the trail. The fear in his voice felt genuine. Completely genuine. I stopped moving. The man glanced deeper into the forest behind him. Then back at me. How long have you been here? Few hours. His face went pale. Did you hear it? My silence answered the question. The man cursed. A look of absolute despair crossed his features. Then the whistle sounded again. 3 notes. Very close. The man's expression immediately changed. Every trace of hope vanished. No. He whispered it. Barely audible. No, no, no. The whistle came again. 3 notes. Even closer. The man began backing away. Slowly. Eyes fixed on something deeper in the woods. What is it? He looked at me. Terror filled his eyes. Raw terror. The thing that's been following me. My blood ran cold. The whistle sounded a 3rd time. This time the man flinched. Actually flinched. Like a prey animal hearing a predator nearby. Then he screamed. Not a startled scream. A horrified scream. The kind produced by someone seeing something impossible. He turned and ran deeper into the trees. As fast as he could. Branches snapped. Leaves rustled. Then silence. Complete silence. I stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened. Then I heard footsteps. Slow. Measured. Somewhere in the woods ahead. Crunch. 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 My pulse hammered in my ears. The footsteps weren't running. They weren't searching. They sounded calm. Patient. Like someone who already knew where their target was. The whistle came again. Only 20 feet away now. 3 notes. Perfectly clear. Perfectly calm. Then something stepped between the trees. And this time, it wasn't human. At first, my brain refused to understand what I was seeing. The figure stood between 2 pine trees roughly 20 feet away. Tall. Far too tall. Its head nearly brushed the lower branches overhead. My stomach dropped. No human could be that height. Not naturally. The thing didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. It simply stood there. Watching. The forest around it seemed darker somehow. As if the shadows themselves bent toward it. My pulse hammered in my ears. The figure wore something resembling clothing. A dark coat perhaps. Or maybe it wasn't clothing at all. Maybe it was part of its body. I couldn't tell. Every time I tried focusing on details, my eyes slid away. Like my brain didn't want to process what it was seeing. Then the whistle came again. 3 notes. Except this time. The sound came from the thing itself. Not its mouth. Not its face. The sound seemed to emerge from somewhere inside its chest. A hollow, mechanical whistle. Like wind passing through an empty tunnel. My blood turned to ice. The creature tilted its head. Slowly. Unnaturally. The movement reminded me of a bird studying prey. Then it took a step forward. Crunch. A branch snapped beneath its foot. That sound broke whatever paralysis had gripped me. I turned and ran. The trail blurred beneath my feet. Branches whipped past. Roots nearly tripped me. I didn't care. Every instinct screamed the same thing. Run. Behind me came another whistle. 3 notes. Closer. Much closer. My lungs burned. I risked a glance backward. The thing wasn't running. It wasn't even walking quickly. It moved at a slow, casual pace. Yet somehow it was gaining ground. Every step covered impossible distance. My stomach lurched. That wasn't right. Nothing should move like that. Another whistle. 3 notes. Now less than 50 feet behind me. I pushed harder. The trail curved sharply downhill. I nearly lost my footing. A stone marker flashed past. Then another. Then another. Dozens lined the trail now. Far more than before. Something about them suddenly clicked. These weren't trail markers. They were warnings. Or memorials. My chest tightened. The realization hit me like a punch. Each stack represented someone. Someone who never came back. The thought nearly made me stumble. Then I saw something ahead. A cabin. Old. Weathered. Hidden among the trees. Relief surged through me. I sprinted toward it. The structure looked abandoned. Rotting wood. Broken windows. Collapsed porch. But it was shelter. A place to hide. I reached the door and threw it open. The interior smelled of dust and mildew. I slammed the door behind me. Silence. For several seconds I simply stood there gasping for breath. Listening. Nothing. No footsteps. No whistle. My heartbeat slowly began to settle. Maybe I'd lost it. Maybe. 3 notes. The whistle came from directly outside. My entire body froze. The sound was only feet away. I backed away from the door. Another whistle followed. Slow. Patient. Almost curious. Then something brushed against the cabin wall. A long scraping sound. Wood groaned. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The thing was circling the building. My mouth went dry. The cabin suddenly felt very small. Very fragile. I looked around. Old furniture. Broken shelves. Decades of dust. Then I noticed writing carved into one wall. Names. Hundreds of names. My stomach tightened. Every inch of the wall had been covered. Dates. Messages. Warnings. Most were faded with age. One sentence stood out. If you hear it whistle twice in the same place, don't look outside. Another read. IT isn't hunting you. It's leading you. A chill crawled down my spine. Then I found a newer message. The carving looked fresh. Only months old. We thought the whistling was a warning. IT isn't. It's how it counts. My blood ran cold. Counts? Counts what? The whistle sounded again. 3 notes. This time from the opposite side of the cabin. The creature was still moving. Still circling. I continued reading. Some of the messages were frantic. Half finished. As if whoever wrote them had been interrupted. Then I found one sentence that made my heart stop. There is more than one. No. I whispered it automatically. No. That couldn't be right. The whistle came again. 3 notes. From outside the window. My eyes snapped toward the glass. For one horrifying second I saw it. Standing inches from the cabin. Motionless. Watching. Its face remained hidden beneath shadow. But I could finally make out its shape. Its arms were far too long. Its fingers nearly touched the ground. Its body looked stretched. Distorted. Like something wearing the idea of a human rather than actually being one. Then it moved. The creature turned its head toward the forest. Listening. The same way a predator listens. A second whistle echoed through the trees. Far away. My blood froze. Not the same whistle. Another one. Then a third answered. Deeper in the woods. Then a fourth. The forest erupted with whistles. 3 notes. 3 notes. 3 notes. Coming from every direction. The creature outside the cabin wasn't alone. Not even close. And suddenly I understood why nobody who heard the whistle ever seemed normal afterward. Because once you heard it, the things making those sounds knew exactly where you were. And Pine Hollow wasn't home to one monster. It was full of them. The whistles echoed throughout the forest. Dozens of them. Maybe more. Every direction. Every distance. 3 notes. Pause. 3 notes. Pause. The sounds overlapped until the entire forest seemed alive. My hands trembled. The thing outside the cabin remained perfectly still. Listening. Waiting. Like it was receiving instructions. Then it slowly turned its head toward the cabin. Toward me. My chest tightened. For several seconds neither of us moved. Then it smiled. At least I think it did. The shadow covering its face shifted slightly. Enough for me to glimpse rows of narrow teeth. Far too many teeth. A surge of panic exploded through my body. I backed away from the window. The creature continued watching. Then it did something that terrified me more than anything else. It lifted one long arm. And pointed. Not at me. Past me. Toward the back of the cabin. My stomach dropped. Slowly, I turned around. There was another window behind me. And standing outside that one was a second creature. My blood froze. Then another shape appeared beside it. And another. And another. Tall silhouettes emerging from the trees. Motionless. Silent. Watching the cabin. Watching me. The whistles continued. Dozens of them. A language I couldn't understand. A signal. A system. Then I noticed something strange. The creatures weren't approaching. They were surrounding. Positioning themselves. Like hunters. Or shepherds. The message carved into the wall suddenly returned to my mind. IT isn't hunting you. It's leading you. The realization hit me. Hard. They weren't trying to kill people. At least not immediately. They were moving them. Guiding them somewhere. The same way sheepdogs guide livestock. A cold wave of dread washed through me. What was at the end of that path? Where were they taking people? My eyes scanned the room. There had to be another exit. A back door. A cellar. Anything. Then I noticed a trapdoor beneath an overturned table. My pulse quickened. I rushed over. Pulled the table aside. The wooden hatch creaked open. Darkness waited below. A ladder descended into blackness. I didn't hesitate. Anything was better than staying upstairs. I climbed down. The air below felt colder. Damp. Ancient. I pulled the hatch closed above me. Darkness swallowed everything. For several seconds I stood motionless. Then I switched on my phone flashlight. The beam illuminated rough stone walls. Not a cellar. A tunnel. My stomach tightened. The passage stretched deeper underground. Someone had dug this intentionally. Years ago. Maybe longer. Then I saw markings. More names. Hundreds of them. Carved into stone. Some old. Some recent. And beneath many of them was the same word. Taken. 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 I felt sick. A noise echoed from farther down the tunnel. Footsteps. Human footsteps. I froze. The sound approached slowly. Then a voice emerged from the darkness. You're still alive. I nearly jumped out of my skin. The beam of my flashlight found a man standing farther down the tunnel. Thin. Exhausted. Beard overgrown. Clothes filthy. He looked like someone who had spent months in the wilderness. Maybe years. What the hell is this place? The man stared at me. Then he laughed. A bitter laugh. The kind people make after they've given up. You heard the whistle. It wasn't a question. I nodded. The man's face darkened. Then you're already marked. My stomach tightened. What are those things? The man looked toward the ceiling. Toward the forest above. His expression became distant. They aren't predators. The answer made no sense. What? They don't eat people. My relief lasted less than a second. Because his next words were worse. They collect them. The tunnel suddenly felt much colder. Collect them for what? The man didn't answer immediately. Instead he pointed deeper into the darkness. Far ahead. Beyond the reach of my flashlight. At first I saw nothing. Then movement. Dozens of silhouettes. Standing motionless. Watching. My blood turned to ice. Human figures. Hundreds of feet away. Yet somehow visible. The man lowered his hand. That's where they take people. My voice barely worked. What is that? The man's eyes filled with fear. Real fear. The kind that never fully leaves. A place under the forest. The whistles suddenly stopped. Every single one. Instantly. The silence hit like a physical blow. No wind. No insects. No creatures. Nothing. The man's face went completely white. No. He whispered. No, no, no. What? His breathing accelerated. Pure panic flooded his expression. He grabbed my arm. Hard. We have to move. Why? The man stared into the darkness ahead. Terrified. Because according to the rules, I already knew the answer. Rule 7. If the whistling stops suddenly, run. Then something enormous moved in the darkness beneath Pine Hollow. And every creature in the forest started screaming. Every whistle stopped. At once. The silence felt wrong. Not natural silence. Not the absence of sound. The absence of life. The tunnel froze around us. Even the air seemed still. Then something moved in the darkness ahead. The silhouette standing beyond the reach of my flashlight scattered instantly. Not slowly. Not cautiously. They fled. Pure panic. The same panic I had seen in the lost hiker. The same panic I had seen in the old man's eyes. My stomach dropped. Whatever those creatures were. They were afraid. Very afraid. And that terrified me more than anything. The man beside me grabbed my sleeve. Run. His voice cracked. Now. Then the screaming started. Not human screams. The creatures. The things that whistled. Their cries echoed through the tunnel and the forest above. Dozens. Hundreds. All at once. A sound filled with absolute terror. I had never imagined a predator could sound afraid. Yet that was exactly what I was hearing. Something deeper in the darkness made them panic. Something worse. The ground vibrated beneath my feet. A low rumble rolled through the tunnel. Dust fell from the ceiling. The man's grip tightened. It's awake. What is? He didn't answer. Because another sound interrupted him. A footstep. One single footstep. Far ahead. Massive. Heavy. The vibration traveled through the stone floor. Then another. And another. Slow. Patient. Each one shaking the tunnel. The flashlight trembled in my hand. My breathing became shallow. The darkness ahead seemed to move. Not because something was approaching. Because something enormous was standing up. The man began backing away. Tears filled his eyes. Actual tears. We waited too long. What is it? His face twisted. Like he couldn't even explain it. That's what the whistles are for. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? The footsteps continued. Slowly approaching. The man swallowed hard. The whistlers aren't hunters. I remembered his earlier words. They collect people. He nodded. Fear filled every inch of his face. They keep it asleep. My blood ran cold. The realization slammed into me. The creatures. The whistles. The disappearances. The rules. None of them existed to protect hikers from the creatures. The creatures were protecting hikers from something else. Something beneath Pine Hollow. Another footstep echoed through the darkness. Closer. The tunnel shook violently. Stone cracked somewhere above us. The man looked ready to collapse. The people they take. His voice broke. They aren't feeding. The next words nearly stopped my heart. They're sacrifices. The flashlight slipped slightly in my hand. No. The man nodded. They bring people below. His voice trembled. Because if they don't. A shape appeared far ahead. My entire body froze. At first I thought it was a wall. Then I realized it was moving. The thing was so large my brain struggled to comprehend it. A massive silhouette unfolding from the darkness. Limbs longer than tree trunks. A body disappearing into shadow. And eyes. Hundreds of feet away. Yet visible. Two pale eyes opening in the blackness. Watching. My knees nearly gave out. The creature wasn't merely big. It was impossible. The tunnel suddenly felt tiny around it. Like the forest itself had been built to contain it. The whistling creatures screamed again. The sound echoed everywhere. Above us. Below us. All around us. The giant thing took another step. And the entire tunnel shuddered. Then I understood. The stone markers. The stacks beside the trail. They weren't memorials. They weren't warnings. They were counts. Each stack marked someone taken below. Someone offered to keep the thing sleeping. The man grabbed my arm. Move! That finally broke my paralysis. We ran. The tunnel stretched endlessly behind us. Footsteps thundered in the darkness. The giant thing didn't rush. Didn't chase. It didn't need to. Everything in Pine Hollow belonged to it. The forest. The tunnels. The creatures. The rules. All of it. We reached a fork in the passage. The man pointed left. That way. We sprinted. The screams behind us grew louder. Then suddenly stopped. The silence that followed felt worse. Much worse. Because now there was only one sound remaining. The footsteps. Steady. Patient. Coming closer. We climbed another ladder. Burst through another hatch. And emerged into the forest. Night had fallen. I don't know how. One moment it had been afternoon. Now darkness covered Pine Hollow. The tree swayed violently despite the lack of wind. The man looked toward the woods. Then his face collapsed. Oh God! I followed his gaze. The whistling creatures stood among the trees. Hundreds of them. Motionless. Watching the forest floor. Not us. Something else. Then every one of them knelt. Like worshippers before a god. The ground beneath the forest began to rise. My heart nearly stopped. The earth itself was moving. Something underneath was pushing upward. The man turned and ran. I followed. Branches tore at my clothes. Roots nearly tripped me. Behind us came a sound unlike anything I'd ever heard. Not a roar. Not a scream. A deep vibration. A noise so low it felt like reality itself was shaking. The forest exploded into chaos. Trees snapped. Birds erupted into the sky. The earth split open. I never looked back. Not once. I ran until dawn. Ran until I reached the parking lot. Ran until I collapsed beside my car. When I finally drove away, Pine Hollow disappeared behind me. I never returned. Neither did the man. I searched for him afterward. No records. No reports. Nothing. As if he never existed. The authorities dismissed everything. Said I was dehydrated. Lost. Hallucinating. Maybe they were right. Maybe. But 3 weeks later I received a package. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. An aerial image of Pine Hollow Forest. Taken from above. Someone had circled a section of trees in red ink. At first I didn't understand. Then I zoomed in. The trees weren't random. They formed a shape. A massive outline. Like the body of something sleeping beneath the forest. Something far larger than the trail. Far larger than the woods. Far larger than I had realized. On the back of the photograph was a handwritten note. Only 4 words. The whistles are gone. I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then I turned on the news. 3 hikers had vanished in Pine Hollow that week. Then 5 more. Then 8. No explanations. No bodies. No clues. And according to local reports, people had stopped hearing whistling in the forest. Completely. Which means Rule 7 no longer matters. Because the whistling doesn't stop anymore. The things that made those sounds aren't there to warn people now. They're gone. And whatever they were keeping asleep beneath Pine Hollow is finally awake.